You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Passive Practice Profits, BrainTap Technology, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, Chiro Pro Accounting, A-Line, and Midwest Brain Health Technology. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 270 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Nicole Bonner, and if you want to know more about true health freedom in the chiropractic education system, stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. This is episode 270, and we have Nicole Bonner coming in from what city today?
Manahawkin.
I know when I first read that in your bio, I was like, I think she might be from Wisconsin. So it sounds like a Wisconsin city name. Anyways, Luke and I are coming in from the beautiful city of Grand Junction, Colorado, and we're really excited to have you on for our 270th episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
And you know, I believe that our first segment is one of the most popular parts of our show, even though the whole show is going to be great. But people are really curious when they jump on and they first hear about somebody they might not have heard before, and your chiropractic story. I love it because that's the juice that I love from these interviews, is hearing something about other people and what makes them unique and awesome. But you've been in the chiropractic space now as a professional chiropractor for 21 years and graduated from Parker. But what really influenced you to do this chiropractic life, and what is your chiropractic story?
Well, I think like most of us, you hear chiropractors often talk about being born into chiropractic, or, that, chiropractic is part of who we are and why we were put on the planet. And that's my story. When I was born, I was born seemingly healthy. And my first year of life, I hit all of my developmental milestones. Everything was great. And then when I was 2 years old, my mom and dad took me to a friend's house, and we were there for, 20 or 30 minutes. And of course, I don't remember any of this, but this is the story my mom and dad told me. And I went into my first severe allergy-induced asthma attack. And that, of course, I don't remember this, but my lungs shut down, my bronchial tubes just closed up, and I stopped breathing. And so I was rushed to the hospital, and they had to give me adrenaline to keep me alive. And I survived that first attack. But as I progressed in age, Jim, my health continued to decline. So by the time I was 3 years old, I was on an allergy medication every day. I was on an asthma medication every day. And my immune system was so bad that when I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, I was on round after round after round of antibiotics for ear infections, throat infections. Like I always had a chronic like strep throat. And then twice a year, I would end up in the hospital with a severe asthma attack. And I remember some of my most vivid memories, even when I was like, 5, 6 years old. I remember laying in bed, because at night, you know how inflammation goes up at night, right? So I remember laying in bed, and it was pitch black in my room, and I was having an asthma attack. And I remember wondering, am I going to be able to get my next breath in? And in the very next thought that came into my head is, oh my God, if I get a breath in, can I get it out? And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, what do I do? Like, do I get up out of bed and get my parents, or like there's nothing that they can do for me. And by the time I was 11, I was obese, and seventh, eighth, ninth grade were like pretty shitty. My life was wake up, go to school. By the time I'd get home from school, I was completely exhausted, so I would nap for 2 hours after school, eat an immense amount of food, and study, go to bed, and repeat my day. And that's what my preteen and early teen years look like. And then and I wanted to be a medical doctor. Like my whole life, I wanted to be a medical. I never wanted to be a chiropractor. I never really even knew what a chiropractor was, except the only thing I knew about chiropractic was my dad would go to a chiropractor when he had back pain, right? And when I was 16, a friend of our family said, "Why don't you take her to a chiropractor?" And that was a really fascinating question at that time, because my dad was seeing a chiropractor for decades for the treatment of neck and back pain, but nobody ever told him to take a sick kid to have her spine checked. And they did. They took me to my first chiropractor. I think you might know her, Anita Milon. She practices here in New Jersey.
Yep.
She's an awesome rock star chiropractor. And she checked my spine. It's funny. I was 16 years old. She was just out of, chiropractic school. So she had just opened her office, and she had checked my spine, and she started, correcting my nervous system. And from there, my whole life was transformed. And it was like, the way that I see it now is like the pivotal moment in my life where I was a freight train going, like, heading for a cliff, man. And it was like somebody took that little lever, yanked it back, and then my whole, course, changed directions. And when my body began to heal, I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I knew since I knew since I was 16, I started working with Anita. And I worked in her office as a chiropractic assistant. And she took me, we went to a New Beginnings weekend, and I heard Jim Sigafus speak. And when I heard him speak, it was like, all right, well, that's what happened to me, And ever since I've been 16, that's what I wanted to do. I mean, that's what I was supposed to do. That's my story.
No, it's really, it's good for people to hear this stuff. And it's good for people to have that like connection to you now, because, your patients will listen to this, your friends and family will listen to this, your colleagues will listen to this, and somebody that's out there listening to this will find some hope, and they'll be like, you know what? We may have been doing things wrong the whole time. And my story is quite similar. I started getting adjusted when I was 16 to become a better athlete. And I always realized, they always used to ask me, like you asked me, like, how did I get into this thing? I'm like, well, when I was 16, I always realized that when I got adjusted, I performed better.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about like, are you in pain? No, it was about, we had like, I grew up in Davenport, Iowa, where Palmer College was. And one of the guys that helped with one of my soccer teams was going to school to become a chiropractor. So we all started getting adjusted. And then my mom was like, well, it seemed like you're performing better. And I'm like, well, I think it's this chiropractic thing.
Right.
And anyways, I always knew as I started getting adjusted throughout the next 5 years, 6 years of my life, that I was performing better. And so it's not always about like fixing something. It's about adding into someone's life. And I think that that's a part where a lot of people don't understand chiropractic, like philosophy and healing art, is like, when the person's body is aligned, it doesn't need anything extra in it. It doesn't need those pills and potions that you are getting, for your asthma or for whatever like symptoms they were trying to patch up.
Right.
And, this is just coming directly off of the Mile High Chiro page today, is 70% of Americans are on at least one prescription drug. More than half take two. 20% of patients are on 5 or more prescription medications. Like, that's from the horse's mouth of the Mayo Clinic. And, when we think about it, there's a lot of people that think that a pill is going to solve their life. But really what it does is, I always tell people this, Dr. Nicole, I've never met anybody who takes more drugs that has a better quality of life.
Right.
It might sustain them, and it might give them more, either appeasement for their symptoms, or it might give them something to like, manage. But really, they don't have a better quality of life. They're not out like running marathons or, going to Pilates classes. They're like, and the serious thing is, I was driving around the other day. I'm like, those are the people that are driving around in vehicles. They get those people's driver's license.
And flying airplanes and captaining ships. It's serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's serious. And
I could go down the rabbit hole to you a long ways, but we don't need any, like Sigafus would say, we don't have a deficiency. We just have to connect the body. And when the body doesn't have that interference, the body heals. And that was your story. And that was my story. And that's Luke's story.
Yeah. Yeah. And, drugs will keep you alive, but they won't necessarily keep you healthy. That's what people have to, that's what I experienced firsthand. Like, thank God we had the drugs that we had, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, the adrenaline shot they gave me to get me breathing again. But it certainly didn't keep me healthy. It certainly didn't give me a quality of life. And that's what chiropractic does for people.
Well said.
So what would be a piece of advice you'd give to another doctor who wants to get more new patients scheduled?
Oh, I love that question. So the first thing with new patients is it starts like everything else. It starts up here. It starts in the mind first. So the first question that I would ask somebody is, I would ask, what are your thoughts surrounding new patients? What do you think about new patients? Do you think it's hard to get new patients? Do you think it's difficult to share your message? Or do you think it's easy? What are your thoughts? And then most importantly, what are your feelings that are surrounding new patients? Because, our physiology, like our energy in which we vibrate at, which of course starts with our thoughts, plays a huge role in your attractiveness, if you will, for new patients and for really anything in our life, right? And so I'd say that's the first place we have to take a look at, is what's happening in between your ears and what's happening in your mind. As far as the actual action steps to build a foundation of new patients, and bring in new patients is, know yourself, know what talents you have, and the talents that you have and the gifts that you have, naturally are typically going to be the things that you enjoy doing. So figure out what that is. So for example, like for me, I love to speak. I love to go out into my community and go to groups, clubs, organizations, and just teach people, right? So that's my natural talent. And then the second part of that is invest in yourself to get the skills and the tools to make you a master at what you already have a talent in. So a great example with that is I took and I love and I highly recommend this course. I took Influencing from the Front by Roberto Monaco. And it was a great weekend, and it really helped me to establish my, hone in on my skills in regards to speaking. But it could be anything. I mean, some doctors love doing spinal screening. Some doctors love digital marketing. Of course, the attraction thing and in getting your physiology right. When you're in practice and you start and you have a really good foundation, you don't need to do a whole lot of marketing, because you're already attracting referrals into the practice. And that's certainly, in my opinion, if you have a lot of referrals coming in, that's a good indication to yourself that you're doing a pretty good job getting your message out. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, I really like that. I like the fact that you found out your zone of genius and what you like to do. And I think that it's just like anything. If you look good, you feel good, you perform good, you get new patients. And it starts with you first. And if you
Yes.
don't have good headspace and you don't have good physical presence and you don't show up the right way, yeah,
Hmm.
new patients are going to be a real problem for you. And really, business will be a big problem for you too. So I think a lot what you said, and then learn from people that are like specifically geared at teaching you how to do certain things and taking
Hmm.
that knowledge and actually implementing it.
Yes.
I think that that's really good too. And Roberto's great. He's one of the best in the business when it comes to teaching people how to share their message and convert that to people taking action.
Yeah. It was a great investment. That weekend was an amazing investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say great things about what Roberto's done, and he's actually one of our most popular episodes we've ever done. So really
I bet.
awesome human, and he's helped a lot of people out in the space. And first time I saw him, we were at Palmer and we were at the same event, and he goes, "Oh my God, the hardest working men in chiropractic. I get to finally meet him."
I guess he's Italian now.
Well, he has this Brazilian accent, but it sounds like that a little bit.
You did a pretty good job with that, Jim.
Not too bad, right?
Not too bad.
But yeah, he was really, even for the fact that he's been around for quite a while and helped so many people, he's also super humble. And
Yes.
it was great to learn from him. And I've masterminded with him time and time again since that first meeting I had with him. So he's just really good. And it's nice to hear your takeaway that he actually helped you with your business and your communication tactics.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And I would say, you really have to, as a chiropractor, everybody has gifts. So you sometimes hear people and they say, "Oh, I'm not very talented with marketing, or I'm not very good at marketing." Trust me, you have gifts that will contribute to your, attracting new patients to your practice. You just have to find out what your gifts are, know who you are, and then hone in on the skill to master it.
So transitioning to the next skill, that's one that's a bit more personal, but what are you doing for your personal health and how do you stay so tip-top shape with your health and mindset?
Great question. So obviously, I get my spine checked every week, and so does my family, right? And we, do our spinal exercises to make sure that our nervous systems are plugged in and functioning as good as possible, of course. But certainly, I ran a high volume practice for a long time, so that was very physically demanding. So certainly exercising. So I do high intensity interval training 4 days a week. And even on the days that I don't do like a formal workout, as part of my family time and the time that I spend with my boys, I always try to make it some kind of exercise, whether it's surfing or skiing or mountain biking or something like that. Morning rituals, as you know, are really important to get your day started, and that might be for me. That's I'm usually working on a book. So I'm either working on a book that is chiropractic related, mindset related, or even personal. Just like for a long time, I focused so much on my professional growth, that I forgot about my personal growth. So now it could be like right now, I am working on developing personal relationships and improving my personal relationships. During the week, as far as nutrition is concerned, I'm pretty strict during the week. We eat 70%, pretty much 70% of what I consume during the week is organic and all home cooked during the week, no alcohol during the week. Then, of course, on the weekends, we do go out to dinner sometimes. And I work with an integrative medical doctor that I work with for proper supplementation and balance there in nutrients.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Passive Practice Profits, BrainTap Technology, Sherman College of Chiropractic, SCED, ChiroPro Accounting, A-Line, and Midwest Brain Health Technology. Let's hustle. Well, it's really good. I think everybody needs to get a snapshot of what's in the vitamin cabinet inside of people's houses, rather than what's inside the medicine cabinet. And I think that a lot of times people just need to be a bit more accountable with practicing those healthy habits and being, leading from the front, as Roberto would teach, teaching people how we actually do what we do to stay healthy. And I think that it's really important to connect with your family and to keep people, moving in the same direction as you, as being the leader of the family, to be able to say, hey, by the way, we eat like this, and it's okay to have some fun on the weekends, but we need to make sure that we're following good guidelines to stay healthy. And we don't want to be that group that takes medication, because, if we practice good, healthy lifestyle, then we don't need that stuff.
Yeah. And, you and I earlier, before we started recording, we were talking about integrity, right? So, doing what you say you're going to do. And for us, it's also about leading by example. In my opinion, if you have good integrity and good character, you can't expect a patient and patients' families to follow things that you're telling them if you're not willing to do it yourself.
So what are some of your favorite ways to stay connected with your community?
My favorite way is I love doing videos. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of my videos that I've done, but I love just getting out there and providing value for my community. Usually I pick topics that are a little bit more polarizing. I like to speak about vaccination, masking in schools. Now I've been doing some videos on that for my community. And we talked about the mask mandates, and then just different topics that are going on, even politically, that really impact our health in our small little community here at the Jersey Shore. Because there's a lot going on politically. In New Jersey, across the globe, but especially in New Jersey right now. So I just love to do videos and disseminate that information and get the proper information out to empower parents to continue to make great health decisions for themselves and for their families, but also continue to fight and stand up for their children and empower them with information that they could use to do that, to make sure that our children especially are as safe and healthy as they possibly could be. We got some crazy stuff going on here in Jersey.
Well, I mean, it's important to keep on consistency with that message, because, the way I see it is, the Facebook police come after you and they're like, oh, you can't tell people the truth anymore. And it's like, no, I'm going to, and that's just the way it's going to be. And you guys don't have to like the narrative of the truth, because it is what it is. Like that old saying is more powerful now than ever. Is like, it is what it is. Like, you don't have to like what I have to say, but just don't censor it. Okay. Like let's agree to do that. And I think that that's where we have to go, is people do need informed consent. They need informed information on what they do for not only their health, but I think video is the way to go. And I think that, connecting with a larger audience, as you would know, like speaking one-to-one matters, getting knee to knee with somebody. But when you can speak one to many, that's when we can really showcase somebody's knowledge that they were able to capture in a snapshot to a lot of people in a bigger audience. So I think the video is a good way to go. So kudos to you for creating and not backing down, and keep on helping other people, know that there is a different way to live. And it's not always the best having a government leadership when it comes to what you do for your family. Like, you should be able to make decisions based on, your home and what you do there and how you raise your children. And I think that having healthy children is every mom's dream.
Of course. Yeah. And of course, that's the foundation for the success for their life. And just some of the stuff that's going on, a lot this past year, I've grown personally, I've grown tremendously, because I had to come to a place, Jim, that I had total detachment from outcomes. In other words, I got to a place where I got so dang frustrated about what was happening to our families, to our people, to our children, this vaccination and masking and everything that has gone on this past year. I got so frustrated. I just grew to a place where I said, you know what? I'm going to stand up. I'm going to tell my truth. And I'm really completely detached from how people receive it. And not only detached to how people receive it, but just became detached from any consequence, and for me that was so liberating. That was like it was like somebody just took the shackles off, and I was just able to share and get out all of this information, and just completely detached from the outcome. It was liberating.
So what do you see happening with chiropractic in the next 20 years?
Well, I think that depends on what we start doing now to preserve it. I mean, certainly don't like some of the things that I'm seeing with some of the students that are coming out of school. It's been last 5 to 7 years, my experience, or what prompted me to create a student coaching program, was not because I didn't necessarily want to coach. It wasn't I didn't wake up one day and be like, you know what, I really just want to coach students. That wasn't it for me. But I was interviewing for like a year and a half, 2 years, chiropractors coming out of school and I was interviewing them for an associate position in my office. And I always ask them this interview question. And I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is as serious as a paper cut and 10 is as serious as cancer, I said, where do you rate subluxation? And for the first time since I became a chiropractor 21 years ago, I heard graduating students saying, well, we don't recognize subluxation. And I said, you don't recognize subluxation? They say, no, we don't call it subluxation. We call it intersegmental dysfunction or something like that. And I said, well, I was shocked. I was like, well, if you're not addressing subluxation, then what are you doing? This is what we do. This is what makes you a chiropractor. That's who you are. And the response was like, no, that's not what we're taught. And so between that and then the whole agenda of taking X-ray out of our profession, just, so there's some things where I see the colleges are not going, in my opinion, in the direction that I would like to see them go in. So, I think it's the preservation of our profession is like the preservation of our health. We have to start doing things right now so that in 20 years we can have, a really great flourishing profession and keep the profession. Because if we continue going down the road of where these colleges are sending their students, we're not going to have a chiropractic profession.
So here's my solution. On graduation day, we create a little portal for them to walk through, that they walk through and they meet us. And then we give them some philosophy and let them know that this is the way that the chiropractic profession used to be. And that what you just received was a paper to get you to the point to practice. But here, this is how you actually, the people that practice chiropractic and that are like the doctors out there, this is how we do it. And I do think that whoever was within the medical arena that came in and started infiltrating chiropractic colleges did a really good job, because you're seeing the byproduct of it. You're seeing a group of people that are being removed from the historical resonance of chiropractic when it comes to what chiropractors have been doing for 125 years. Now we have this lack of integrity within the education model that gives lack of integrity to the future chiropractor. So there is the opportunity to still course correct, but you have seen the glaring problem, which is the schools producing chiropractors. And what that does is gives it that lack of stability that says, oh, by the way, we're going to just tell people that chiropractors shouldn't do x-rays too. And it's no, you guys are botching this. If you want to botch the profession, you guys are doing a pretty darn good job of it. So we need to bring some integrity back to it. And by the way, you schools, you guys are producing medipractors, not chiropractors. So if you guys really want to be a medical school, like do that.
Yeah.
But don't come in and manipulate the system of education to fit your agenda, because that's it's really not fair to the future chiropractor.
You know what? I love that what you just said. It's not fair to the future chiropractor, and it's not, because they're like, I feel like the chiropractic student is getting like a bait and switch, because they're going to a school thinking they're supposed to be taught chiropractic and they're not being taught chiropractic at all. And
Mm-hmm.
that's sad. And it's sad for that individual who is spending time, energy, money on getting a degree that they don't even know who they are as a
And
chiropractor.
and every chiropractor that catches that, they're like, yuck, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it gives every chiropractor a yuck moment. Like,
Yeah.
what are they doing over there? Like, why are they doing that? Well, it's because they've been taking money from the wrong people. And they've been taking money from different people that don't support the chiropractic philosophy, science, and art. They support the medical model. And that's the problem, is the money that chiropractic schools have been taking are from poor leadership. And
Yes,
we're here today that's not the direction that chiropractic will go, because there'll be a band of people like us that say, no, you know what, chiropractic, the reason that Chiro Hustle exists is to protect free speech in chiropractic. And that's one that supports innate intelligence and subluxation based chiropractic. So if it's up to us, our legacy as a podcast will help the future of chiropractic by doing these types of expose interviews, saying, all right, let's have a conversation again about the problem that is ever present today. And this is the solution. Well, people like Nicole Bonner teaching chiropractors that subluxation matters, and the schools are botching the whole process right now. So whoever's watching this and sees this, just know that we know that you guys are screwing things up.
Amen.
So we're starting to approach the edge of this interview, but why don't you tell us a powerful miracle story that maybe you've seen in your office over the years?
Oh my goodness. Well, miracles happen every time an adjustment is given. There's nothing else on the planet. This is what I want students to know. Like, there's nothing else on the planet that can release and restore life to the body like chiropractic. And so every time an adjustment is given, it's a miracle. Because life energy, life is being restored to the cells of the body. And we call a miracle, like, I was thinking about this because we see things that the miracle is the restoration of life to the body. But the output are the improvements in people's lives that we see. So I know the question that you're asking me is to give you like a story about the output, and I'll share one with you that I just had. But I want you to know, and I want the students and the new doctors to know that every time you deliver an adjustment, a miracle is happening, whether you see it on the outside or not, whether you see an improve a symptomatology or not, the miracle is happening. And one that just came to my mind just because it just happened, but things like this happen all the time in our offices. I had a patient come in who was referred. He was a 15-year-old young man, and he was an athlete, and he's been playing soccer since he's been 4 years old. So just having a lot of head trauma and head injuries, many concussions. And he developed, over the past couple of years, he developed tics. So imagine being a sophomore in high school and being a young man and walking around and having uncontrollable, like this all the time. And he came in, got evaluated. We started clearing out subluxations, and one adjustment. I always get nervous when this happens because this has happened like quite often, but the mom called the next day crying And that happens a lot in our office. Like the mom calls crying the next day after the kid had an adjustment. And I'm like, oh God, what did I do to get her? I hope he's okay. And she was crying because it was the first time in like 2 years that he went through the whole school day without a tick.
Wow.
Yeah. So 14-year-old boy, that's huge,
Well, I'm sure that the question that we didn't get a chance to ask you, what I'm still going to ask you anyways, I'm sure you're his hero right now. And me being a soccer player, I played for 22 years and I started at 5 and I got my first adjustment when I was 16. So I definitely can put myself into that kid's shoes. So it's really cool to hear that you're helping with that young student athlete. But to wrap up today's episode, and thank you for sharing all of your knowledge about chiropractic and who you are and what makes you unique in this chiropractic space. It's been really a great episode. But maybe you can close us out with, I know you mentioned Sigafus was the first person at A New Beginnings that really got you to see the big idea, but who are some of your heroes in closing?
Well, gosh. There are so many greats in chiropractic. So there's, my goodness. I mean, Jim Sigafus for me was definitely a game changer. That was definitely a pivotal moment in my life. But also all the, when I think of heroes too, I guess, because I'm a female, I think of all the female, world changers, all the females that showed up and had the courage to step out of the box and step out of the comfort zone and stand up for, whatever their philosophy was or whatever their message was for the world. And, some women that maybe we've never even heard their names before, like Sybil Luddington or Jane Addams and Amelia Earhart, who we know, and Rosa Parks, and all these women who had the strength and the conviction to stand up for what they believe in, and being detached from the consequences and just doing what they thought was right, speaking their truth. So those are some of my heroes and the people that I look up to.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm very blessed to have you on the show today, and it's been one of my favorite. And this is episode 270 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. And before we end up today, what are some resources that you have for us, like web addresses, or where can people go if they want to find out more info on you as the chiropractor?
Sure. Well, anybody can always email me anytime. My email address is Dr. Nicole at drnicolebonner.com. I know it's really original. It's easy to remember. So you can email me, Dr. Nicole at drnicolebonner.com. You can find me on Facebook, private message me, and I'll be more than happy to help anybody that, reaches out in any way that I can, Jim, for sure. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Well, it's just a little expose that we do to preserve chiropractic. And like I said before, this is, if you just outwork everybody, then you make yourself a place at the table. So we just keep on producing and keep on sharing the truth of chiropractic. And these messages matter. And the chiropractic message always will matter. And that's why when we do this, one matters, but 1,000 really matters. So when we keep on doing this and staying consistent with this brand, the chiropractic message is getting disseminated. And it doesn't matter what they're doing at those chiropractic schools or institutions. This stands alone and it tells the truth on a day-to-day basis. Yes. And it actually reaches more people and households than the message that they're not telling. So I stand with you in the future of chiropractic, and we just want you to know that we really appreciate you, and we'll see you out in Burbank at Chiropractic Rocks this coming weekend.
Yes, sir.
We'll do a second interview with you out there.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right.
Very cool. Thank you.
Nice speaking to you today, and we want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.